I love teaching English because I love to see how communication needs to transform into this new completely different system and setting, and how children discover that at the beginning they are very literal and they try to translate, and with time they start to discover that it's just rebuilding your message in a different language. And when they stop thinking about that they have to translate and they just start wanting to communicate, it starts to happen much more fluently, and they realize they know much more than they think they know.
They shouldn't be nervous. They should just focus on learning. They should just focus on speaking. Even if they are not perfect, it's okay. They shouldn't be perfect. No one is perfect. So I'm always telling them, focus on learning this language. Do not focus on being perfect on this language.
I think that when children feel comfortable and they feel safe in the English class, they can learn in an easier way, because sometimes English is a little hard to learn.
From my humble opinion, the best way to study English is by striking up new relationships. It is not only that you go home, you study the verb tenses, you study the vocabulary, the grammar points, and that's all. But you also need to put those things into practice. If you don't practice the things that you learn, you are not gonna broaden your horizons.
I always encourage children to speak, even if they are wrong, and they know that they learn by mistakes. It's very challenging for them to try to speak, and it's very rewarding at the end for them to realize that they got something, they arrived to a place they've learned.
Sorry about that. I was muted for a second. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Asia Talks with Oxford. Thank you for joining us today. Whether you're watching this live or via the recording, we're happy you're here with us. My name is Joshua. I'll be moderating today's session on behalf of Oxford University Press. I'm based here in Tokyo. We've got a nice sunny winter morning. How's it like where you are? Where is everyone joining us from? Why don't you post in the chat or in the comments? I see we've got teachers from all over the world joining us. It's lovely to have so many teachers from all over the world. Well, this online event is just one of the services we offer to teachers. So let me just say a few words about OUP before we get started. So Oxford University Press is the world's leading authority on the English language. And as part of the University of Oxford, we are committed to furthering English learning worldwide. We continuously bring together our expertise, experience, and research to create resources helping millions of learners of English to achieve their potential. And this objective is constantly evolving and changing as new technologies and tools such as AI, which has been in the news recently, start to influence and disrupt the learning process. The pace of change is more rapid than ever, and at Oxford University Press, we strive to put learning progress at the center of what we do. We work with institutions, teachers, and learners to provide the results and data they need to realize their progress, learning goals, and their potentials. So thank you again for joining us. Throughout the day, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, do click those like buttons or the love buttons, and please share this with any teachers you know that needs this kind of content in their lives. You can tag them in the comments right now. Let them know that you're here. This really does help us out to spread the word. So let's take a quick look at the schedule for today. We've got 2 sessions planned. The first session will start in just a minute. That'll be with Susan Liu and Mark Richard. And then after that session, we'll take a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll have the second session with Naoko Amano and June Lee. And after that, we'll wrap up the session. So thanks again for joining us. And I'm going to go ahead and get our first 2 speakers on screen. Let me just get them in there. There you are. Hello, Mark. Hello, Susan. How are you today?
Hello. Good morning. I'm doing quite well.
Good.
Good
All
morning, Josh. Yeah, and good morning, Susan. I'm doing okay here in Taipei. Yeah, interesting to see Asia Talks with Oxford, but not just Asia. Yeah, Argentina,
Oxford,
Egypt,
everyone.
Mexico. It's,
Oh,
it's the
cool.
world talks with Oxford, except Europe. But it's too
All right,
too late
guys.
tonight.
I'll leave the audience in your hands, so I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you very
Josh.
much.
And hello, Susan, again. And
Hello.
this session is all about assessment. All right, so we're going to be
Yes.
talking about assessment to enrich our students' learning progress. I'll be keeping an eye on the questions, as will Susan, our assessment expert here. So please ask questions. I'll try and catch them. And if I don't, we have people behind the scenes here at Oxford University Press helping me to kind of catch good questions, and Susan might have time at the end to answer them. So, Susan, here's my idea of how to start.
Yeah.
What is
Please.
assessment? I'm going to ask you that straight away. What is assessment? And I'd love to hear your answer, but it would also be nice to see any answers from people joining us right now.
Yes, thank you, Mark. We like to just hit a straight strike, right? Yes. So before I give or we go like to look at the details of what assessment is, I would like to quote a definition from an OUP position paper. And while I read it out loud, I would like to invite all the teachers to have a look and think about this definition. What keywords can you get from this version of definition? Okay. All
Okay,
right.
great. And please type those keywords in the chat box. We'll see if we agree. All right.
Yes. Right. Okay. Here we go. So it says assessment is about gathering information in order to make judgments which provide the basis for action. Yes, as you can see from the screen right now, this is the definition from an OUP position paper on assessment for learning and effective feedback. Yes, please, I would love to see what you think is or are the keywords from this definition before we
Yeah, so
look at
I've just jotted down two
Mm.
keywords with an arrow between them, actually. But before I tell you what I jotted down there, let's see what you think. And there'll be so let's just give you say 10, 20 seconds. What are the key words? If you were highlighting this with a highlighter pen, gathering information in order to make judgments which provide the basis for action, which words would you highlight? I know I've got a couple. So we have another definition from JMD Saraswati. Simple meaning is checking. So something about checking is important in assessment,
Yes.
and then that's I guess that's part of it. Oliver Tae Chang Liu, and apologies if I mispronounce the names. I do my best, but there are people from all sorts of cultures and language traditions here today, which is great. Says mark the grades and evaluate students' performance in daily life. So there's marking, you've got grading, you've got evaluation. Daily performance in daily life is quite interesting.
Yes.
Anything you see there, Susan, that's interesting?
Let me see.
We've got NASA Alijev says evaluation, so that word again, evaluation.
Yes. Cool.
And then
Well,
everyone's joining in with evaluation now. So what do you okay.
Right. Yes. Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing your ideas. Right, because assessment is kind of a process that help us, or is a method to help us to evaluate our students' performance and then make some important decisions in the whole cycle or the journey of learning, right? Okay. So, Mark, would you like to share your keywords?
I would actually, because
Yes.
I put information, arrow,
Mm.
action, right? So that was what I did.
Wow.
Am I a good boy? Am I a good student?
Actually, very good students.
Okay, all right.
Right. Yes. So let's have a look at let's use Mark's keywords to have a closer look at the definition. So first, Mark said information, right? So assessment, and like some teachers said, you evaluate students' performance. So it means anything we do to gather information about what our students know about or what our students can do. So assessment can answer many questions of teachers about our students. For example, what are my students learning? What can they do, or what can they do with the language they learn? Or why are they so engaged in the class? Or why are they so bored by this module? So it provides evidential basis for us as teachers to make judgments about their performance or their language proficiency. So this is about information, any way to get information. And then the second keyword mark is action, right? Yes, so with the information we gather, we need to make decisions about what we do, right? How we help our students to learn better, or how we will teach better, right?
Okay, well that's great. What I take away from that is, because often we use the words assessment and test as though they're the same thing, but I think assessment is something bigger, and maybe is a test a kind of assessment? But if you're using that definition of gathering information and then taking action, well, a test can give you information, but so
Yes.
can, like, if I'm teaching in class and I observe a group of students talking with each other in English, can I gather information from that? Oh, they're not using this tense properly. I better take
Yes.
action and teach them that next time. Is that also a kind of assessment?
Assessment.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
I would say
Yeah.
yes. Right. Thank you so much, Mark, for taking that from the definition, because assessment is not limited to tests. So it can be formal tests, like I think a teacher said, mark the grades, right? So that means it's a very formal. So it give you a summary of where the student is at right now or what has been learned. It can also be informal assessments, as Mark mentioned, such as students' classroom dialogues, their classwork, even their homework. So you use informal assessment to help you make like daily decisions about where your students are at, right? So
Okay.
yeah, it
Yeah.
should be
Okay. So that's good.
assessment
So
should be
well,
an
that's good. So I mean,
integral part of
kind
your
of like,
good
and
of
it's nice to hear you saying, like, daily performance, which is, I think, Oliver Te Chang Yo mentioned. We've got another comment which might help us to kind of move on to talking about a different aspect of assessment.
okay.
Kim San talks about assessment as methods to see students' progress. And so progress is one reason we want to see how our students are doing, right? But
Yes.
what I want to ask you is, on the different kind of assessments, what sort of reasons or purposes do we assess students for?
Yes, thank you very much for the audience and Mark. So that is a good question. Before we decide what kind of assessment we use, we need to think about why we want to use it, right? So the purpose of assessing our students. There are actually many kinds of or different types of assessments. So I will start with two scenarios, and we can think about why the teachers need to assess the students and what kind of assessment method they could use. All right. Okay.
Okay, great.
First scenario, I would say teacher A has a group, some new students, and he would like to use some tests or assessments to help him to decide how he can group these students into different classes. So what kind of assessment or tests he could use to help him make this kind of decision? So I have A, placement tests, B, progress tests, C, proficiency tests. And everyone, please type your answer in the chat box so we can see what you
Okay,
think.
we have a very quick answer from Lin,
Yeah.
surname Lin. Chun, I'm not sure how that is. The first Chun Chuan, I'm not sure. Anyway, Lin.
Yeah.
And then let's see. So just to recap, so we're talking about a test. You said, is this something you give
Before, yes.
to students before they start the
Yes.
English language course, and you want to put them into the right class or level
Yes.
or grouping.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we've got placement test A so far, and
Anything different?
I thought it
No.
might be A as well, but that's between you
All
and me,
right.
right?
All right.
I think we're getting A's largely. So Susan,
Okay.
is that right?
I would say great minds think alike, and the answer
Hmm.
is A. Yes. So in this scenario, because it's before the start of a course, the teacher wants to group or place these students into the correct level, right? So we use placement tests because placement tests are used to measure enough of a student's ability to reliably predict where at which level they can study. So yeah, so they're different from like progress tests. They help
Okay.
teachers quickly and
Right.
accurately to take new students and put them into the correct levels,
I hear
right?
you, I've heard you mention, you stressed the words. You get enough of an idea of students' kind of abilities.
Yes.
It's because it's got to be quick, because you might have 1,000 students coming into a school and you can't
Yep.
spend 4 hours testing them on every single variable of their English. It's got to be pretty quick and get them into the right level. Okay, good. So
Yes.
that's placement tests. What's another reason that we test students or assess them, or another purpose?
All right, so then I'll give a scenario 2. So we say
Okay.
teacher B's director wants her to give a formal report on students' performance because they are during the course, because they are in week 6 out of the 12.
Okay.
So the teachers, the stakeholders, the parents want to know how the students are doing, like
Okay.
1/3, halfway of the course. So teacher B now is thinking, oh, what kind of materials I should use, what kind of test I should use. So still 3 options. Everyone, let's think in this situation, what kind of assessment method should teacher B use? Still A,
Okay.
placement tests, B, progress tests, C, proficiency tests.
Okay,
Let's
so
have a quick look.
during the course, see how the students are
Mm,
doing. All right. So
mm.
Nasser Ali Jeff, let us. Which one of your 4 suggestions are you going to kind of submit? So
Yeah.
Nasser's got evaluation, every lesson test, which is interesting. An idea of
Mm-hmm.
ongoing assessment, right? We're
Yes.
always assessing our students, so that's interesting.
Yes.
Progress test, which is one of the options here. An end of term
Mm-hmm.
test, that's interesting. So we've got B as the answer. So is that right? You're describing a progress test. All right,
Yes,
good.
exactly. Everyone, great job. Right. Yeah. So when it comes, so in this scenario, they want a formal like report. So this teacher might think about like checking the progress in a formal way. So you might have to grade the student's performance. So we consider progress tests. Maybe this is one of the most common assessment methods teacher use or taken at different stages of your courses, because you would want to check progress once in a while, right? So you can inform the teachers, the parents, or the stakeholders about how your students are doing, and it helps you to reflect on your teaching or how you can help your students better in the next chapter of their
That's
course,
interesting.
right?
So it's not just,
Mm-hmm.
it's about knowing how your students are doing, but also, yeah, going back to that definition at the beginning, you can get information from that as a teacher, which
Yes.
helps you to make judgments, maybe what to review most or what to teach next, and then you act on
Mm-hmm.
it by maybe putting that in your lesson plan. Does that make
Right.
sense? Yeah, I'm trying to think of
Yes.
our definition
Perfect.
we used at the beginning. Okay, so that's we've had placement tests right before the course, during the course, progress tests, and there was one other
Yes.
option I saw, which was C. So what was that?
It's proficiency tests. So let's think
Okay.
about what proficiency tests are. So they usually measure like the global language skills, like all the sub skills of all 4 key language skills, right? So we can usually we can picture proficiency tests as like gatekeeper, like so to help teachers or administrations to decide if the students can be accepted for the next level of their education. For example, that we have to prove our language is at certain level to get into a college or to apply for a master's degree program.
Right.
Or in some organizations, it might affect if they can be accepted for a new job. So this
Okay.
is kind of more higher
Right.
stake
High stakes. I see.
proficiency tests.
Yeah,
Yes.
so generally this would take a bit longer, wouldn't it? Quite a lot
Yes.
longer.
Yes,
Teacher,
I would say
yeah, a
it
listening
can be like a
section.
quickly done.
Yeah. Right. So let's have a quick recap of those three. Okay.
Yep.
And let's take a look at this. And Susan, if you'd just like to, what we're going to see
Right.
is just the three tests side by side, just so you can get an overview of how they're different from each other. There we go.
Yes, so here is a quick summary of three kinds of tests we can use at like kind of different stages of a student's learning cycle. For example, placement tests are usually used before they actually start the course, and progress are used at like various stages during the course. And proficiency tests as the gatekeeper, probably by the end of a course, or help you to decide if they can move on to the next level of their education. And we will include this in the handouts if you're interested in looking at this in more detail.
Yes, and you're
Right.
welcome. So Zhong
Right.
Xuan Lin says, this is a good summary. Exactly, it's a summary. So we'll leave that, you'll get this in the handout. So those are the three kind of three main purposes we give tests. And you can see how the reason you give a test is a key influence on the type of test. Right, and what the content of the test is, and but we'll move on now, because you can read more about that in the handout. Because okay, you have to know what your reason for assessing a student is, which includes testing. But how do you know if you're going to do that effectively? So let's move on to this. What can we say to help teachers who are very often not assessment experts, right? What do teachers need to know to help them choose effective assessments?
Okay, right. So, like you said, teachers really, they deal with assessments very, very often. And I'm not sure, when I started teaching, I only had like 2 semesters of assessment courses for preparing me to become a teacher, but I still didn't quite understand a lot. But here today, of course, we can't go like a full length to explain, but we will try to give you some basic ideas so you have the knowledge to help you evaluate what kind of your options, the options you have when you have different kinds of materials you can choose from, right? Okay. Yeah, so I'll start with like an acronym for like all the, not all, like as it's like key principles for you to evaluate if an assessment method is effective. Okay, so the acronym is VRAIP. It stands for 5 key principles for evaluating assessment. So I'm wondering if anyone could or know what they stand for. So each letter is the initial of a word that represents the principle of one of the principles, right? Okay,
I find this
please,
pretty
if
tough.
you know, please chat in the chat
I'd love
box.
to see. I need help from our audience, because I find this pretty tough for me. So please help, and maybe we can, while people are typing in, let's go over the first one. So and I'll give a kind of clue as to the type of word we're looking for. So what is
think
the
this
V?
is a good idea. Yeah, right. And the first one is kind of a tough one, so it's a good idea to jump start with. Number 1, V stands for, you ready? Validity. Right.
And actually,
so,
Bibi Valandia Rodriguez, well done, you got it. And I think well, you've got. We'll see if your R is correct as well. But validity.
Oh wow! Very soon we will reveal
Various
that. And
is a really good word, but it's not the one we're looking for. Yeah. But so again, sorry, validity. What is validity? And
yes,
by the way,
validity
validity is it's the sort of thing that PhD students will have arguments about because it can get very deep, I know. So
Yes.
we'll just touch on the basics of what validity means today.
Right, yes, in a such short
Yeah.
session. So if we put it like in an extremely simple way, validity means the assessment method measures the precise skills you want to measure your students. You won't include like questions that measure skills you don't need to test or measure now. So for example, if I want to measure my students like ability to take turns or manage like a conversation naturally, a valid speaking assessment would be like giving them opportunities to respond and interact with each other spontaneously.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I ask my students, oh, please read out the dialogue aloud, and then I grade them, then it's not valid because I can't see how they can take turns naturally or manage a conversation.
I see. Yeah, I mean, you can't really measure that with a paper exercise, right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of something else I saw. This is an example. I remember years ago I saw a teacher marking a quiz, and the question was, what is the capital of Brazil? And the student wrote, full sentence, the capital of Brazil is Rio de Janeiro. Now, the sentence was in perfect English, but the teacher marked it incorrect because actually the capital of Brazil is Brasilia. And I thought, but hold on, this is an English test. I mean,
it's not a knowledge test.
they're losing a mark for sort of general knowledge, which has got nothing to do with English. Is that an example of an
Yes.
invalid test item?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, good.
So that has
I get it.
test knowledge instead of like the language. Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Great.
you. That's a perfect, simple.
So
example.
next we have R, and we already
Yes.
have some guesses. We have reliability and reliable. So is that right, Susan? And others, you
Perfect.
can move on to the A if you like. Okay. So what does
Okay.
reliability mean?
Right. I think the audience got it. So R means reliability, right? So the adjective is reliable. So if a test is reliable, you know, the same candidate takes the same assessment or test on two different occasions or twice. Basically, they will get very similar results. The results won't be like vastly different. Yeah. This reminds me of like when I was still teaching, I used a lot of placement tests. So a lot of times parents or students would come to me when they saw the results, which were lower than they picture their level at. So they would request, oh, I think I wasn't prepared for or fully prepared for this test, or I was a little nervous. I would like to take the test again. But if the test is reliable, basically the results wouldn't be too much difference. And as a result, their scores were exactly the same. So
right.
yeah,
So consistency sounds like a big part of that.
Yes.
Right. Okay. On to the A, and we already have we have accurate and accuracy. Are these answers accurate, Susan?
It's not exactly accurate, but that's a very good try. Thank you very much. So A stands for authenticity. So the adjective is
okay.
authentic.
Good try with accuracy.
Yes.
So authenticity. So what does authenticity mean?
Okay, so authenticity, if we put it in a simple way, is just ask yourself if this assessment or test paper reflects, or these questions reflect students' real life language use outside the classroom. If it doesn't, then it's not authentic, but it is pretty complex. So if you feel like reading more, we do have like position papers and professional development modules that elaborate a little more on assessment literacy. So feel free to check it out.
Great. So let's move on to the I. And can anyone guess what the
what
I
do we
is?
have? Yes.
And I'll give a clue because I can see the answers. It doesn't end in Y. right?
No, this is
The
the
others
only,
are
yeah, this is the only one.
reliability,
Yeah.
authenticity. People are kind of thinking, what, intricacy? What begins with I and ends in Y? No, it begins in I, but it doesn't end in Y, and it's quite a
This
short
is the
word.
only one.
I'll give you a
It
clue.
doesn't.
Boom. That.
Yes.
And
Anything we have?
let's
Okay.
see. So
This is
people are
pretty
typing
difficult,
now.
I'm
There's a bit of a delay. So
Yeah,
let's just
okay.
wait in. I'll count down and then you can reveal the answer. 5.
Right.
Just give people a chance to type. 4,
Mm-hmm.
3, 2,
No,
1. And Susan, what is this next principle?
it is impact.
Impact.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah, so for first 2 or 3, people might easily get and think about when they think about if the assessment is good or effective, right? But I think here I would like to spend a little more time on impact, because this might be something we overlook when we think about assessment. So impact, let's think impact, influence, what kind of influence they have. So it actually means, how the assessment affects students' learning and well-being. So what do I mean? If I would say, if we think about the students' well-being from taking a test, if this test would cause students like unnecessary, unacceptable level of stress or anxiety, I would say it has negative impact on the students' well-being and then also on their learning. So I'll give an example, because I started teaching with using placement tests, so I'll take placement tests as an example. In traditional paper-based tests, everyone can think about when you were students, when you took tests, probably first 20 questions you saw were super easy for you, right? And then in this section, you move on to, I think these questions are probably right at my level. And then I finish like, I feel good. And then you move on to the last 20 questions. This is way too difficult for me. I don't know what to do. And I will start feeling more nervous and stressed before I even move to the next session or section. Yeah, so this is the one example of like how an assessment method could
That's
influence our
interesting.
students negatively.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the kind of thing I'm more surprised to hear about when we talk about assessment. It's not often we think about well-being as part of a principle of choosing the right assessment.
Yeah.
You reminded me as well. I used to teach younger learners, and even at the age of like 5 or 6 or 7, I remember that I was the English teacher, and I used to give these oral tests where students would at the end of a course, not a placement test, the students would come outside and sit one-on-one with me in the hallway of our school. I would ask them questions like, what is she wearing? And they'd look at a picture and describe it, just to see if they've learned the language, right, and can say it. But, those students were, especially younger learners, they were fine with me as a teacher. And but as soon as they were in an assessment or test environment, they knew. And I would see their hands gripping the chair in front of them, and their knuckles would be white. So they could get really, really stressed. And we did everything we could. I remember we just kept soft toys, like give them a teddy bear. So at least
That's
they've got something to
nice.
hold as they say, she is
Yeah.
wearing a skirt, and that kind of thing. So it's really important.
Right.
Yeah. The tests are pretty stressful, aren't they? So
Yeah, I
that's
wasn't
good.
a big fan of taking tests
So that's
myself.
impact, and there's one more with a P. So we'll let everyone guess what the P is. But while we're on that, what do you
Right.
think? So someone's already said it. So we've got progress and we've got practicality, and someone else, Eileen Mucino says practical, and we have again saying practicality, and then Summer. Nyok and Summer, sorry for the pronunciation, says practicality. Is that right? Is the P for practicality?
Right, yes, and this one also
Well
ends
done,
with
everyone.
T, right? Y, right?
Yes.
So practicality. So I'll go through this very quickly because We deal with assessments very often, so we want them to be practical, right? So there are many factors we need to think about when we talk about practicality. So for example, number one, how long it will take the students to take the tests. So if I just want to place them quickly into the right level, I don't want them to spend 3, 4, 5 hours taking a test, right?
Yeah.
So I want to think about if it's time efficient. And if we talk about time, we also need to think about how much time it's going to take the teachers to grade the test and then interpret the data from the test so they can make the decision.
I've got my red pen here. I remember some
right.
teachers who had a cup full of just red pens because they
Yes,
marked so
that's
much. It took so much
all we
time.
had to do. Yeah. So right. So for like time efficient and it's like how much time it's going to take you to design and construct and distribute these tests. These are all practical questions we need to think about. As teachers are busy, we need to think about these practical things, right?
Okay, yeah. Okay, great. So that's your 5 key principles. As Susan has mentioned, you can read about them more. We'll send you a link to the handout. But let's move on. We've got to sort of finish up. We have about 10 minutes. So let's move on to just some general tips. So please ask questions. But let's move on to some just general extra tips that we can give to teachers. Because we talked about the principles and the purposes, but what other suggestions do you have, Susan, for any teachers and schools out there who just want to choose a successful, solid, reliable assessment program?
Okay, so from my 13 years of taking students or teaching, dealing with different tests, I would say my first tip is to get off or start with an effective placement tests first. Because we all know, right? Well begun, half done. We want to have a strong start. We want students to be placed at the right level. So something like they won't have to come back to you after probably 2 months saying, sorry, I don't think I'm studying at the right level, or they request to change classes, which will cause more and more and more problems. Yeah, so my very first tip is to choose an effective placement test system, which will save you a lot of time and hassle, right?
Right. Teachers have so much admin to do, don't they? And schools. And
Right.
so anything which
Yes.
can save on that admin time frees up
Yeah.
teaching time, I think.
Yes, so
Okay.
that's why. So if on that note, I would recommend using a computer if it's possible or practical for you to use a computer-based adaptive tests, which will generate results automatically, so you don't have to spend time really marking, and it's just done on the computer. It's very time efficient for teachers, right? And it won't cause students stress because it's adaptive, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay. They don't have thrown loads of questions which are too tough for them and stressed them out.
No.
Yeah, they kind of find your level and ask you more questions at your level. You don't have to.
Yes.
What you mentioned before about paper tests, the first 20
Yes.
questions are a waste of time because they're way too easy. The middle bit,
Yeah.
oh, that's just, it finds your level, and then the rest of the questions are too high level for you. It's not just
Yeah.
distressing. It's also a waste of time, I think.
Time for the easy
I like
ones,
the idea
right?
of computer
Yes.
adaptive tests, kind of finding my level and then really examining very carefully by asking
Right.
questions around my level. So it kind of like asks, ching, 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 ding, kind
Yes.
of finds my
Unless
level
they
like that
find
more
it.
quickly and intelligently. Okay, cool.
Right.
So that's using get off to a strong start. What other tips do you
Mm-hmm.
have?
Okay, tip number 2 is if you use a placement test, I would suggest to make the full use of the results from that you can get from the placement tests. So when I was a teacher for my whole career, when I use placement tests, I always look for extra useful information to help me understand my students better before I actually meet them or start teaching them, so I could prepare better to have students more engaged or feel more comfortable when we come into the class. I will take Oxford placement test as an example, as I'm pretty familiar with it. So if you can see from the, usually a lot of placement tests, they will give you just a score or a level that suggests students where they can start. But for Oxford placement test reports, they will actually give you first a breakdown of their scores, their level, and the time they took to complete each section. So as you can see, oh, thank you for putting it on the screen. So you can see the breakdowns of their levels of use of English and also listening. So it can help you to see if the level between these two skill areas are well balanced, or there is quite a gap, to help you to start thinking. If there is a big gap, you have to think, oh, I might need to provide some differentiation, or my students might need extra help in this particular area. Either
Okay.
listening or use of English. And also, nice part of this report is they give you a pretty detailed description of the communicative competencies or skills the students have at this level in use of English and their listening skills. So
Right.
it will give you more
Okay.
idea of how your students are doing right now.
So, I mean, one, it helps me get students into the right group quickly. But two, if I see, for example, that many students' listening level is below their average English level, maybe I can
Yeah,
support them with more carefully designed listening activities, you know, a bit more support
yeah,
there. Okay.
right.
So any other tips?
Right. So tip number 3 is, so after we have a strong start with the effective placement test and we use the data from the report, next one, I think, as we say, most commonly is checking the progress during your course, right? So my next tip number 3 would be use progress, check in progress or track in progress effectively. So I was here, I want to point out is good assessment always has a good balance of informal assessment and informal assessment. So as we mentioned earlier, you know, we could use progress tests to track their progress, but it doesn't have to be formal tests all the time. Or it doesn't have to be tests. It can be project work. It can be like a student's demonstration slide presentation, but you
Yep,
can
I
also
see.
mark them or grade them if you want a formal thing, a formal assessment. But my tip is to let them get familiar with your requirements and know the rubrics, how you're going to grade them, so they will feel more comfortable to prepare for them. So this is the formal part of the assessment, but also we say check in progress, it involves informal assessment. So there are many activities we can use for informal progress check-in. So for example, we can use quick quizzes at the end of a class, or we can ask students just to underline all the examples they can find of a grammar point you're helping them to learn, or use some self-reflection task to help them
So,
to think about their learning,
okay.
right?
So we have an example called exit,
Mm,
321 exit ticket, which we're going to look at
yes.
as a
Mm-hmm.
self-reflection task. So what I'm going to say is, so Susan, just explain how this activity works as an informal way of gathering information on students' progress. And what we're going to
Mm-hmm.
do is, so if you could explain that, Susan, and maybe
Yes.
ask our teachers here to comment on one
Try it
question.
out.
Yeah.
Yes, right. So this is one self-reflection tool I like to use with my students before. So basically, I created something look like tickets. So on each ticket, you have different questions or things you want them to think about after a class. So on the first half of the PPT slide, you can see a set question. So first, write down 3 things I have learned from this lesson, and then 2 things I find interesting from this lesson, and 1 thing I would like to discover more, which usually indicates something they find difficult, but I would I want to discover more to help them feel better. Or I can have a different version if my students are at lower levels of 3, 2, 1. What do they write? They can write 3 expressions they really like from the class or the story they're reading, or 2 things they find interesting from the story, or 1 point they find difficult, or 1 word they find difficult. Yeah, and you can also extend, like if your students are young learners, ask them to draw 3 words they like instead of write them down. So you can tweak a little bit to adjust to your students' level.
Okay, great.
Right.
So you get that information, and if I see something, 1 point I find quite difficult, as a teacher, I can see that on the tickets and maybe teach it in
Yes.
the next lesson. So what we're
Yeah.
going to do is ask you to wrap things up. Let's ask you an exit ticket question to type in the chat box. What's one thing that you've learned from this session? All right, and then we'll see your comments as they come in. Now, Susan, as the comments come in and as we wrap up, and I expect Josh to come along any second. Maybe we can take, before that happens, let's just ask a couple of questions I've noticed from teachers. So there was someone in a script, sorry, possibly Cyrillic script, I'm not sure your name, if it's Olga, or asks, is it okay to tell the results of tests in front of the whole class, or should it be done privately from a kind of psychological and well-being aspect? Should a teacher read out the test results? And yeah, what do you think?
Right. So from my own experience, I would like to first, I would like to evaluate situations like this really, really carefully. But as teachers, you know your students way better than we do. But I usually use a more private approach. So because students, especially if you're teaching teenagers, they are going to be very sensitive about their own presence. So yeah, I would prefer to go with a private approach or a one-on-one individual. And also announcing the grade, I think, for dealing with results, if I go with one-on-one individual, I could provide more feedback to my students so they can work with the test results and improve and think about how they can learn better, or they can even ask you for support. I think it will do more good than announcing publicly in the class, because assessment's important thing is to grab the information, the result, to make decisions, to do actions for future learning and teaching. Right.
Okay, fantastic. That's a great point to finish. Right, back to our definition, right? Gathering information so you can make judgments about actions. It's all about helping students to learn English better at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And there we go. Well, thank you everyone very, very much. Thank you so much, Susan. I'm sure you have many more questions, but there is a handout. You can read more about the terms we've used today. And look, here's Josh.
Hello.
Hi.
Good session, guys. Thank you so much. That was amazing. I'm sure the teachers got a lot out of it. There's loads of comments, interaction, questions. So well done. And thank you for delivering that. If you did like that session, everyone, I do encourage you to explore our professional development resources and learn more about assessment for learning, so you can keep your own learning progressing. You can snap the QR code on screen, and you can find, amongst other resources, self-access professional development modules. Also on the slide, if you haven't joined the Oxford Teachers Club, you should do that now, because this is an amazing digital destination packed with loads of resources, practice activities, practical materials, etc., that you can take straight into your classroom. So thanks again, Mark and Susan. And I'm going to say goodbye to you now and drag you off screen. So I'll give you a second to say goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you for being
Bye-bye.
with us.
Thanks.
And thank you, Josh and Mark.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. I'm just going to get our next presenters on screen and do a quick tech check, and then we'll take a very short break. So let me just get our next presenters. I'll get June and now go on screen here. Can you guys test your camera and mic?
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Are we coming
Great.
out clear, Josh?
Yes, sounds amazing. All right.
Excellent.
I'll
Can
just
you
hide
hear-
you guys in the green room for a second, and I'll bring you back in a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to take a short break. We're running a couple minutes behind, but that's fine. Before I do drop you off on your break, I just want to remind everyone that certificates of attendance are available for this whole Asia Talks with Oxford, and you must claim those within 48 hours. So the request form will close on Friday the 24th at 12 o'clock China Standard Time. So do claim your certificate. You can click the link in the comments and then tap claim your certificate and submit your details. All right, thank you. So we're going to take a very short break, a couple minute break, so you have a time to go grab a cup of coffee, and we'll come back in about 3 minutes with our next session. So thank you and enjoy your break.
Do you need to test your students' English level quickly and easily? Get fast, reliable results with the Oxford Placement Test, which has already helped place millions of students in the right class. Suitable for students aged 16 plus, it is 100% online, so students can take it at home or in class. Perfect if you need to test your students remotely. Our learning management system makes it easy for you to set up tests and manage results, which are available instantly. Using computer adaptive technology, the test adjusts the difficulty of questions based on the student's responses. This ensures that it gives more precise results than traditional placement tests. The results give you a thorough understanding of each student's English level, including a score out of 120, the CEFR level, and how long the student took to complete the test. The report cards make it easy to share meaningful results with students, with information about what a student at a particular CEFR level can typically do in each of the skills tested. Join our community of thousands of satisfied teachers and try the Oxford Placement Test today. Visit our website now to find out more.
I work as a tourism teacher. I prefer the Oxford test of English because it's faster than other tests. You take the test in only 2 hours. You have the results in a short period of time, and the price is good.
I am Dr. Ahmed Awad. I am an English language instructor at Al-Qura University. What makes the test really attractive and amazing for our students is that it's the only test which offers a certificate issued by Oxford University.
A test that can adapt to the students and test them to their limits, I think that's a really good idea. English helped me understand important.
All right, sorry to cut the video short there, but I want to get started with our next session. So let me get Naoko and June on screen. All right, hello again, guys.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
All right, so I will leave it to you guys. I'll turn it over. So hope everyone enjoys the session.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Wonderful session. Mark and Susan, a lot of great information shared about assessments and how it's going to be applicable for the classroom. I know that we did do a quick introduction for their session, but I have noticed that we have such great chat box talking conversations and movement now. So I'm going to open up our typing fingers and keep them warmed up to our attendants and teachers, please, if it's okay with you. So everyone in the chat box, can you please share with us where you are coming from and joining us with? I know you mentioned it earlier, but we would like to see some of the locations that we are working with. So in the chat box, everyone, please tell us where you are joining us from. Good. Hopefully we can get some
Taiwan.
Taiwan. Okay, very good. Excellent. Karen, USA. Wow, that is probably the furthest person away from us. You have Taipei, Seoul. Very, very nice. Excellent. Excellent. Tokyo, Vietnam. Wow. Very international now. We have a lot of people coming in from Italy. Wow. Nepal. Excellent, excellent. Well, that's actually great to hear, Ursan. Very, very nice. Well, I do want to thank everyone for continuing our session with Asia Talks with Oxford. I just want to do a quick introduction of myself. My name is June Lee. I am part of the Global Professional Development Team. I am joining us today in Seoul, South Korea. Go Seoul. So I'm very, very happy to be here. Very, very excited to be here with Naoko, who is joining us from Japan. Before we start our session, Naoko, can you please go ahead and tell us about yourself?
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Naoko Amano. I'm from Osaka, Japan. And I've been teaching English to young learners for about 14 years. And at first, I was teaching it to my daughters. And gradually, the kids' neighborhood gathered and it became a class. And now I have my own school. And the number of the students is 130 right now. And then last year, I had a wonderful time with OUP Japan about hybrid lesson. And this time, OUP Asia asked me to speak about my teaching experience, and I gladly accepted. So I'm so excited to be here. Yeah.
Excellent. That's actually great to hear. It's actually quite nice. It's interesting to see a director of their own language institute also continuing their teaching. That's actually really great to hear. And I'm very, very happy for us to join us today. And everyone, just like in the chat box and just like in our previous session, keep those comments, keep those opinions and your experiences coming in through the chat box. We will be looking at them and we'll be definitely giving you a lot of opportunities to actually share your experiences and questions that we have for you as well. So, Naoko, going back to our session, can you please tell us, what are we doing here today? Why are we with you today?
Okay, yeah, I am here because I'd like to share some activities which nurture your students' learning journey, right? So learning English is not something that can be accomplished in a short time. So I'd like to discuss with you what is important to continue learning English and what can teachers do to help them achieve this.
Excellent. That's actually really nice. And I like how even in our title, you talk about that learning journey and you understand that it is an experience for our young learners and our children, if we have any, but it does take time. And that is actually very, very nice that you talk about the importance of learning English and what it is important to learn English. But I'm going to ask you the exact same question before we share your response. I would love to be able to hear from our teachers. So I would like to open our first question out to everyone first before we hear from you, Naoko. Is that okay?
Of course.
Perfect. The question is going to be, let's see. Let's ask our first question, everyone. What is important for learning English? What is important for learning English? It's a very broad question. It's very, very open, and it's going to be different for every teacher and every educator out there. So we're going to hear from our audience first, Naoko, and then I'm going to ask you the same question. So please be ready to share your answers. I want to make sure we give the opportunity for our teachers to also share their responses too. Oh, and we already have responses coming in. We have Andrea, teacher, saying to be able to communicate effectively. That's actually very, very positive point, and that is actually very important for learning English. And let's go ahead and get those responses, everyone. We would love to hear you from as well. Now, could you read could you read some of the responses from our teachers as well? We have a lot of them coming in now.
Oh, yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, okay. So, the Lean teacher says mother language aptitude. Yeah.
Mother language aptitude. Okay, very good. Interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
I think we have Yi Sung-ah teacher saying that I think it is confidence to live well. Very, very good.
Very good.
A variety of methods is important. Constant stimulation. These are actually a lot of great responses, but we are hearing from our teachers. So please continue to share your ideas. Please get those answers in. But since we do have Naoko here, I would like to ask you the same question as well. So Naoko, for you, what is important for learning English?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much for your great ideas, sharing your great ideas. Yeah, then I will mention these 4 points. 4 points. One is fun things to do. Two, keep students' interest. Three, positive motivation. Four, progress awareness. Yes, they are very, I think they are very important. And one, the first fun things to do is, like, of course, it is important for both teaching and learning to have fun. So it's easier to keep students' interest. And second, keep students' interest. Students' interest depending on their age and environment. So I always try to communicate with them to find out what they like. So, and I use that in my lesson often. And the third, positive motivation. The positive motivation is greatly influenced by the atmosphere of the class. So a motivated class is very active and fun and warm, and this is like kind of class is a team. So when that happens, the class is going well and the students are often satisfied. So the teachers also, happy or sad, and depending on the atmosphere of that class. So I think this is very important to have positive motivation. And lastly, the progress awareness. I think it is also important for both teachers and students to know how the students' English is improving. Knowing their strengths and weakness in the process, taking lessons will motivate them and encourage them to continue learning English. Yeah.
That's actually excellent. And just to go back over some of the points that you mentioned, I know that you mentioned keeping the students' interest in the classroom. And as we're looking at some of our teacher responses, there was actually many teachers who were actually talking about using English as a tool to learn about the world, trying to inspire different cultures. I think this is actually a very positive and powerful way to keep the students' interest in the book, in the course book, and also in English as a language as well. So those are actually having that important to connect with people all over the world means a communication, also getting information too. So I think it's actually quite great that we can connect all of these kind of topics, keeping it international, and that can actually really help with that motivation as well to its too. Great. So there are a couple of other points that you did mention, positive motivation. And I think you said something about team and the class being together. Naoko, do you mind just explaining a little bit more when you mean about team motivation or group motivation? How does motivation work in small groups and also for the class too? Can you share some of your ideas?
Yeah, the motivation is the motivation is influence the other students, right? So the small in a small group, and the if the the very active students try to try to learn English and then try to answer, and the other students look at the students read the motivate the students to read to the other students. So that will really make really great atmosphere. So that I will do some small game, like easy game.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is actually really great.
Yeah.
I think that's an
Mhm.
excellent point.
Mhm.
I really do agree with you saying that motivation kind of
Mhm.
spreads and influences other students as well.
Mhm.
And that is actually very true in my experience as well too. If
Mhm.
you are able to not have the teacher lead the motivation, but if the other students in the
Mhm.
classroom are also leading that motivation to its
Mhm.
too, it
Mhm.
does, I think it has a big impact because
Yeah.
it's like peer motivation. They can see someone their age and their
Mhm.
level
Mhm.
also doing as well. Those are actually very, very four strong points that you addressed.
Mhm.
And what I'm curious about is going back to the learning journey. You
Mhm.
targeted four main
Yeah.
areas that
Yes.
you thought are very important for learning English,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
would you be able to share
Mhm.
what is the language journey for you in your classroom or your school?
Okay, of course. Of course. All right. So this is just uh, the year of view of my school, and I organize my year into three sections, and they are about 4 months each, including holidays and school breaks. And the three sections are separated by uh, in the beginning and the middle and the end of the school year. And in the beginning, I have students focus on getting used to the class and to develop study habits. And in the middle of the year, I use quizzes and assessments with students to support their learning. And also, I hold events for special days, like such as Halloween, Christmas, and we have extracurricular activities such as STEM class and English summer camp. And at last, I have the students focus on reviews and preparation and practice skills for the final project. And I share these plans with our students and parents.
Oh, it's great. It's great. I think it's actually it's very simple the way you organize this for your school.
Mhm.
And for all the teachers out there, please keep in mind Naoko is based in Japan. So because of the Japanese school system may be different, I think the biggest important key takeaway is that she organizes it. I think it's a great idea to do it in the beginning, the continued support in the middle, and also at the end of the semester too. So I think it's important for us to recognize the stages
Mhm.
and not so worry about the months itself. If you're in Korea or in Vietnam or in Mexico, the dates will be different, of course. But I think it's important that this year journey has these clear checkpoints and markers for us to look
Mhm.
at. Now,
Mhm.
Naoko, I noticed that I see that you put "Let's Go,"
Yeah.
and so that is one of our OEP titles, and I love "Let's Go" too. And yes, I have my book. I have "Let's Go" everywhere at my house. There's posters and everything. So, can you just share with us how
Yeah.
does "Let's Go" or why did
Mhm.
you use "Let's Go"? How does that work with your schedule, or how the flow of your year-long journey works? Can you share some information about that?
Yeah, because the contents, Let's Go has 8 units. The contents are fits in my year, school plans, and it is easy to expand. So I love this.
Great. So I think it's actually a great way to actually use the course book itself. And like you said earlier, no matter what course book you're using, the idea of expanding, that
Yes.
word I think is very, very important, because you may have the basic skills, but expansion is really, really strong to it
Yes.
too.
Yes.
That's actually really, really great to it too. Are there any other reasons why you like the course book? Not just expansion. Is there any other key parts or features that you like with Let's Go?
Yeah, Let's Go has there are lots of pattern like simple sentence, and at the same time they can learn question pattern and also and the grammar points, everything in it. So it's really useful to develop their students' English skills.
That's actually, yeah, I kind of forgot about that, but yes, Let's Go actually, Let's Go does do a great job of building. So in the beginning, it is a little bit easier, and it has a really good progression. Yes, that's actually a very good point. And I'm actually very, very glad that you showed us this structure. To be honest, and I can see the people in the chat box talking about creating good atmosphere. Someone mentioned that the Let's Go series actually does have great resources. So once again, I know that Naoko is using Let's Go, and her activities will be based upon that. But for a good course book, it's good to have that expansion, that extension, and also good resources too. So I'm very, very happy that this course book works well for you. Now, as you mentioned earlier about this journey, and in the beginning, you talked about how it does take time. Because we have such good responses in our chat box, I actually want to ask another open question. If it's okay now, go to our teachers first. So Naoko mentioned that there is a beginning part of the semester. So for our teachers in the room, can you please share with us at the start of your semester in your classroom, can you share with us what's one thing you do to prepare your students for a new class or course book or learning environment? So that is my question for all of our teachers. How do you start your new semester, course book, or class? And then I'm going to ask you the same thing again, Naoko. So let's hear from our teachers first, and then hopefully we can get some great answers as we have seen so far.
Okay.
Great. So once again, the question is, how do you start your semester or new course book with a new class? And hopefully we'll get some great answers and experiences from our teachers. Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, at the start of the semester, thank you for sharing that. I think my question was a little bit too long.
No, a placement test.
Placement test. Okay, that's a very interesting, that's a very academic approach to it. Adriana teacher says brainstorming. Good.
Good.
I believe Amar teacher says map out the course in a very simplified way. Ooh, that kind of sounds familiar. So,
Yeah.
ice breaking, brainstorming activities. Yeah, these are actually great ways of starting the semester itself. Yeah, please continue to get your answers in. More icebreakers. We have another teacher responding. We usually look through the pictures of the units.
That's really familiar.
Yes. Interesting. These are some great ideas. Icebreakers again, motivations. Oh, greetings activities and learning with fun. Greeting activities. Yeah, this is the first person who said greetings. Rehearsing routines and procedures, warm up and motivation. These are actually all great ideas. And please make sure, everyone, to get your answers in. But I'm going to turn over to you now, Naoko. And I would like to ask you the same question. How or what do you do at the start of your semester?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, sharing your great ideas. Yeah, and I introduce each other. And at the first, sorry, at the first semester, the start of the semester, introduce each other and to get to know each other. So this is something that many teachers already know and do. So I'd like to focus on these two things: create interest in the course book and show progress and skills gained. And yeah, to create interest in the course book, I do activities, introduce characters and layout. Yeah, the scavenger hunt. Do you know the scavenger hunt? Yeah, it's really easy and fun activity for this. For example, so how many units does the book have? And students, open the contents and they count the units and how many characters are there, and they count 1, 2, 3, and find something blue. And yeah, it's easy and fun and exciting activities. And I also ask, how many pencils in Let's Go One? How many pencils? Let's go on. Any teachers know the answers?
Oh, you're asking us now? Okay, great. So, yes, I think this is a great way. The scavenger hunt is perfect. And teachers, can you guys guess? Can you guess how many pencils are in the Let's Go One? I have a Let's Go Two.
Oh, okay.
But teachers, this is a great question. I love this activity. It really gets the students to look through the book. So teachers, can you just guess how many pencils are found in the whole book, Naoko?
Yeah, whole book.
In the whole book. Okay, let's hear some answers, please. This is a great question. So teachers, can you please just guess how many pencils do you think are found in Let's Go Level 1 in the whole book? Any ideas, everyone?
If you have,
Well, 100. Well, we have 100. I think now don't tell us the answer yet, but is it less than 100?
Less.
Okay, less than 100. Okay. We have Helen has said 15. Now, is it more or less than 15?
More.
More than 15.
Yes, more than 50. 15.
Okay.
More than 15. Yes.
More than 15. Let's see. Amar says 20. More than 20 or less than 20?
More than 20.
Okay, so far, everyone, it's more than 20, but less than 100. Okay, great. Wow. Hector is very, very, very. Oh, we have Adriana said 50. Hector is very specific. Hector said 23.
More.
More than 20. Okay, interesting. Okay, so Naoko, can you please tell us what is our answer? What is our answer to how many pencils?
Okay, 28.
28.
Yes.
Oh, 28. So for those teachers, 29. Andrea, very, very close. I think Andrea was the closest person. We'll give her a big round of applause. Wow, 28. But I think that this scavenger hunt idea is great. I think it's a fun way of just getting the students to look through the book themselves.
Yes,
it's a great way.
Yeah, so by doing this, student can preview layout and topics and see images. This is fun and exciting, so it's good. Yes.
Yeah, and also I think it's a great way. You're actually 100% correct. I like the way they look through the book themselves and they can see the different type of pictures, like you said, and they can kind of indirectly. It's like getting their mind open to what they're going to kind of look at. They can look at the topics, and I think that scavenger hunt is great because you can focus the different kind of questions, like, oh, what topics are we going to look at, or different images too. That's a great point. Now, how about number 3? You said show progress and skills they will gain. What does this mean?
Yeah, I share with my students about learning goals, progress along plan for the year. And so I tell them to look at the first unit of the book. This is Let's Go For, and then let's compare with the other, the the last of the unit. For example, unit one's reading is this language, but the unit 7, the reading is,
Yeah.
the sentences really, became longer. So, so the student will notice the increase in difficulty, and maybe they will be anxious, like, oh, can we do that? Or they might be anxious. But so I tell them, this is your English skill in a year. Yeah. And then they get excited, and it improves their motivation, and it increases their confidence, and their eye will sparkling. Their eyes light up and their eyes are shining. So this is the best part of the first lesson. I love this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's like, to be honest, that is something. I mean, I've taught as a teacher. My background is teaching as well. I've taught for 10, 15 years, and to be honest, I admit that I never actually did this. I think it's a great
Oh.
idea. I really do think, and for those teachers who are not, I mean, of course, Naoko and I have the book in front of us, but for those teachers who don't actually have the book in front of them, there is a progression. And like Naoko said, I think it's great to show them the differences. So Naoko, can you please, I have the same level book you do. So can you please go to page, page 73.
73, okay.
Yes. And I am holding page 11, everyone. And Naoko is going to hold page 73. So hopefully you can see that there is different complexity within the same level. Meaning that, like Naoko has said it's going to be easier in the beginning, but like Naoko is showing at the very end, the sentence structure is longer. The reading paragraphs are a little bit more challenging. And I like the way that Naoko mentions it is going to motivate them to see, wow, I can really learn this and read this later on. I think that's a very, very great way of really introducing to the students themselves. And Naoko, I like that word. You said their eyes are what? What are their eyes doing?
Sparkling.
Sparkling. Excellent. Excellent. I like that. It's nice to see that the students are actually really can kind of see their learning growth. And of course, it takes time, but they can see that beginning and also at the very end. That's an excellent, excellent point. And I'm going to borrow that from you, Naoko, and I'm going to tell all of my teachers that I do trainings with. Yeah, that's an excellent, excellent point. Very, very nice. So Naoko, these were all great ideas to get the semester started. Now, in the middle section, in the middle of the semester, can you share some activities or things that you do to continue their motivation or continue their learning growth?
Okay. Yeah. So in the middle of the year, the students get used to the class, and sometimes their motivation is going down, right? So and along the way, so there will be a quiz and little activities in the middle of the session, and the quizzes are often like spelling tests or grammar checks. But I have my favorite activities I'd like to share with you today. Yeah.
Great.
And yeah, my favorite activities in the ones that gives them a chance to recycle the words they have learned already. And look at the picture on the left. Now here's an activity, and using let's go 4 unit 1. We do around the end of unit 1 of Let's Go 4. And in this unit, the theme is outdoor. The theme is outdoors. Yeah. And then they learned need to, and I am going to. Yeah. And the end of the unit, there is a short stories about Chile. Yeah. So after they read the short stories, I show YouTube video about Chile, and talk about what they see in the video. And then I ask them, where do you want to go? Let's make a vacation plan. Yeah. And then using the words they learned, and the students plan their own travel plans, and they also make a chart of where they are going and what they need to do, something there. And make a presentation, short presentation to the classmate.
That's actually great. I mean, I think it's good that like you said, mentioned like that you follow the topic, so there's like a great way of learning the material first from the unit, like the vocabulary, and you mentioned the grammar patterns, and you also use these, I guess, worksheets and quizzes and assignments to track their learning. But at the very end, like you said earlier, the reading is meet Chad from Chile.
Yes.
So they take this idea and then they read it in class, and then you have them do their own little mini project or presentation. Then, correct?
Yeah, yes, correct. Yes,
okay.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like I'm curious. I know that many of our teachers right now are working with different level of students. So how would you do this with a younger classroom or a beginning classroom and more advanced levels? Are there
Yeah.
any differences?
Of course, for the little kids and the beginner class, they are not able to write a sentence maybe. So they draw a picture. Well, for example, if the travel plan, that if they want to go to Hawaii, they draw beach and they write the name, like labels, like this is sea, this is turtle, and then show and tell.
Oh,
So
very nice, very good. And then, of course, like the older level students are going to have a little bit more sentences, correct?
Yes, of
Yeah, I
course.
think that's great. I think I like the way how you use these quizzes and assignments, and it matches the level of the students. So in the next picture, we have events, special classes, and mid-semester. What is this then? What are the students doing?
Yeah, and then this picture is about the STEM class and the last summer vacation. Last summer, yeah, they are making Newton cradle. You know Newton cradle. This one.
What is that, Naoko?
This one.
Oh, okay. Oh, and they make this?
Yes, and they made it.
Okay. So can you tell us more about these special classes? You said STEM. So when do they do this then?
We do it their school breaks, like a long vacation, like it's the summer. So we have long summer vacation in August in Japan, so we can do not ordinary class. So I always have a STEM class.
Okay, so these classes are during like their winter or summer breaks then, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so are these the same? I mean, are the classrooms the same, or are they mixing with other students?
Yeah, it's mixing. The class is not ordinary, and they can use the age and the levels are mixed, and they can meet the other classmates. The school.
That's actually great. It's actually nice that you are able to do this at your school because they are actually using the language in a different setting. They're using it in a different location. It's actually getting a lot of practical usage from them. That is actually really, really great. And there are many teachers in our chat box saying that they really like the way you motivate using your textbooks in the beginning and also in the middle too. So now that we've looked at the beginning, middle, I guess we can go to the very end of our semester. So Naoko, do you have any activities or suggestions of what you do at the end of the semester?
For the end of semester, students make posters and they do presentations. Yeah, the students choose the topic of the poster and research for it. They use dictionaries, internet, and they do internet, and maybe they go. Some students go to the library and research it, and of course they do them in all English. And
that's great.
Yeah, and sometimes they work in a group, and
Okay.
some ones do individual. So they work together, and I just give some advice for the layout and polish their writings. So it's
That's
really.
great. I mean, I like how like I think it's important. Like I like how you just focus on the layout and you kind of
Mhm,
polish the writing part,
mhm,
but you
mhm,
give a lot of control to the
mhm.
student then, correct?
Yes,
Yeah, and
yes.
it's great. Like how you mentioned earlier that like the younger students will do more of a show and tell, and
Mhm,
then the older students will add more sentences and create
yes.
more complex things then,
Mhm,
correct?
mhm. Yes, that's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like at the very bottom, you said you invite parents for presentation day. Can you
Mhm.
share with us what is the parent interaction and what is presentation day?
Yeah, I don't often invite the parents during in a year, but I want to show their progress, the students kids progress. So I invite to the class and to show to see the presentation.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you invite the parents into the
Mm.
classroom to see their
Yes.
projects and their progress in the classroom.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
well, I like how you integrate your parents because I know you sent us a great picture.
Mhm.
It's the next picture we're going to see together. Now, Naoko, what's happening here? What is going on?
Yeah, this is a Halloween party we had last October, and I think about over 200 people there.
Oh, 200 people, you said.
Oh yeah, over
Oh,
200.
200. Okay. And now during this event, like, are
Mhm.
they, what are the students showcasing? Are there any kind of presentations or how are the
Oh
parents involved?
yeah, uh, just we have fun, dancing, singing, and chatting. Yeah, and then yeah, there sometimes there are the students they have got applies for the speech contest or something, and I will they will you know we celebrate for that.
I
But
see, I see.
yeah, but mostly we have fun and uh, meet and having we wear the favorite costume and just having fun. That
Well,
but
I think that's
it's
great. I
very
mean,
important. Yes.
yeah, I mean, motivation doesn't always have to be academic,
Mhm,
but these
mhm,
types of social events that you hold at
mhm,
your school, I
mhm,
really think allow
mhm,
parents and students to kind of
mhm,
interact. Other
mhm,
parents can talk to other parents, and
mhm,
other students can kind of show off what
mhm,
they're doing in the classroom. So,
mhm,
I think it's important getting the parents involved. So,
mhm,
in your opinion,
mhm,
what are some of the reactions? How do the students feel
mhm,
about their parents joining and seeing their presentations and being in these events? How does it
mhm.
help their motivation?
Yeah, the opportunity to do something in English, like doing project or making posters in English, is something special for Japanese children, and at the same time, it is for it's the same for the parents. So it's very special to do something in English. But so the children do their best to show their parents, and the parents often make time to join the presentation day.
Okay, so
Mm,
as they're doing this, I want to go back to. I know we're going to be wrapping up soon, but I want to go back to the learning journey. So, why do you think it's important for parents to see this learning journey?
mm, yeah,
Because you
yeah.
said earlier it does take time,
Mhm.
and I know in Asia, I'm from Korea, and Korean parents are very, you know,
Mm,
give
yeah.
me results now, learn
Yeah.
now. But why is it important for parents to see
Mhm.
this?
Yeah, in Japan, the English conversation school is like are often sort of a form of learning, like piano lessons or swimming school after school. So if you can do it, if you can, you can speak English. Oh, you're lucky. So it was fun. Oh, as long as it's fun, it was okay. As long as it was fun. But recently, people in Japan have begun to realize that English can make a big difference for their children future. So and more people putting effort into learning English. So, but many people don't know the process of English learning, right? So, and many parents want immediate result. So, yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, there are many parents who overlooked that fact their kids are improving little by little, assume that they are not improving anything, and give up. You know. So I think that by seeing, but so I think that by seeing not only the test result or paper, but also the actual speaking and the projects, parents can see how hard their kids are working, how they are improving, and both parents and their kids can imagine their future.
That's
Right?
actually that's a very,
Mhm.
very good point. And
So I
I
believe, yeah, I
yeah.
believe, yeah, I believe that will move them to the next cycle of the motivation.
No,
Yeah.
that's great. There's so many great points that you mentioned about parents actually looking at the progress. There is actually this teacher, Karen Pang, has also said something very similar. And then,
Mhm.
so that parents can really see their kids' progress and
Mhm.
what they can actually do in English. And you are 100% correct, Karen and Naoko, about student and parents understanding it does take time. It's
Mhm.
not instant. They are progressing.
Yeah.
And even if it's not only on tests, but
Mhm.
seeing this in different forms is
Mhm.
actually a very, very strong thing. I think it's very, very strong as how it really helps the journey and also the learner's development. That is excellent. Thank you for sharing with that with us.
Mhm.
So as I am aware of our time and we should be
Mhm.
wrapping up very shortly, but
Mhm.
what I want to do is I know there were some questions that were coming in from our chat box. Maybe
Okay.
we can answer. I think we have time for maybe one or two questions.
Mhm.
To be honest, Naoko, I think you answered a lot of them already in our chat box. But let's give yourself. Naoko, I want to give you a few moments just to look through the chat box itself.
Mhm.
If there are any questions, if you can please go ahead and put them in the chat box, all of our teachers.
Mhm.
Oh, we have a great question from Tansita.
Okay.
Can you see that question now? Go. It's about parents helping their children practice at home.
Yeah. Uh, in my school, since the students comes once a week and they practice English only 1 hour, so it is not enough to improve their English. So I give a homework to read aloud, read sentences and read structures, and then uh, they record it and they sent them in by line. Then I'm going to check it. So and I reply and advise, and they send the recording again, so they can keep practice.
Oh, that's great. I mean, with nowadays, you are right. I mean, we have recording everywhere. Our mobiles are giving us
Yeah.
recording, and I
Mm.
like the way you use that line. I know in
Mm.
Korea we have Kakao, and I
Mhm.
know in
Oh,
other countries in Thailand they have I think it's like WhatsApp, WeChat, there's
okay.
Viber,
Mhm.
there's so many other ways that we can do this. But I like that recording idea.
Mhm.
And I think it's good that they can get their parents involved. So as their parents are recording, they can see the improvement.
Mhm.
And then that back and forth, they can try again, make it better, and getting involved. And I think it's a very good process
Yes.
of getting those parents involved at home too.
Mhm.
Thank you for that question,
Thank you
Tensita.
very much.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are wrapping up and we are running out of time. We would love to stay here and chat more
Mhm.
with us, but I just want to say thank you again to Naoko and all of our team members for the Asia Talks with
Thank you very
Oxford.
much.
Before we go, Naoko, would you like to share a final comment or something about your experience today with all of our teachers?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for wonderful time together today. And I learned a lot from you as well. And I hope that what I have talked will inspire you and bring you a new idea. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Very, very nice. So I guess we'll have Josh hop back in for us, please. Once again, I do want to say thank you again for everyone joining us. Thank you, Naoko. Thank you, Josh, and all of our Asia Talks with Oxford members. Over to you, Josh.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Naoko and June. Another great session. You nailed it. Lots of comments, lots of interactions. So thank you. As was introduced in the session, let's go. If you click that QR code on screen, you can have a look for yourself at all the wonderful resources for teachers, for learners, and for parents that Let's Go offers. So it's a great course loaded with digital and print materials that you can use to make your classes run smoothly. So I'll say goodbye to Naoko and June. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And hope to see you guys at another event soon. All right, and thank you, teachers, for sticking with us throughout the session today. I hope you got a lot out of it. Please do keep typing in the chat in the comments and tell us how you found the sessions, what your favorite one was, what kind of topics you'd like to see at other events. We really want to make these events all about you and provide the content you want. So please do let us know how you found today. Also, on screen, you can see a QR code for our Asia Instagram account. So please make sure you're following us on there so you don't miss any of the opportunities for attending these types of events or sessions and all the other resources we provide. So please do remember to join us there. If you are based in Vietnam or Thailand, we also have private Facebook groups for your markets that you can meet other teachers and you can share your teaching ideas. So there's the QR codes on screen, Vietnam on the left, Thailand on the right. So do make sure you click those or scan those QR codes and join those groups. Also, again, reminder of certificates. So certificates of attendance are available for this whole event. They must be claimed within 48 hours. So the deadline is there on the screen, 24th of February at, well, it's 12 o'clock UT, or 12 o'clock China Standard Time, or 4 a.m. UTC. So do click that and enter your details if you want your certificate. And then finally, I just want to say again, please do share this this type of event with the teachers that that you think needs this type of content in their life. You can tag them in the comments. You can share the video with them after, but please do share this and help us spread the word about these type of events. So thanks again, teachers, for joining, and I hope to see you at an event soon. All right, I'm going to log off now. See you next time.